Hey guys, I'm gonna make a recording for assignment one of how to go through the assignment instructions and look at some lighting options. I got this building from Dominique. It's your E2 drawing, so there are some things that aren't, I would say, exactly the same. So bear with me. She's just coming off on break, so hopefully I can make one that might be more like hers. The only thing is I'm not sure about the ceiling plan, but I'll show you a couple different options anyway. Right, so for assignment one, what's being asked of you is the following. So I'm going to start here, calculating the required lighting. So the following are the steps used to calculate the lighting requirements shown in NEC. So this is National Energy Code 2020, section 4.2.1.6. So it says in AutoCAD, measure the interior floor area of each enclosed space. Create a table in the model space for each room. This should be on a non-print layer. See below for an example. Right, so basically room, name, and number, like retail space, space type, and then dimensions, and then the lighting power density, right? So I'm going to create that, and I'll show you what that would look like. Okay, so I just created a table. I just went up to the table under here, under annotation, click this, created a table. Basically just use the standard table. Use 4 columns, 3 rows. You don't need to really make a title, but whatever I put in a title. It's a table for lighting calculations. It is on a non-print layer. The next piece that I would do is I'm going to fill in the table with the with all the information that I need. Now, I'm going to pick a couple rooms here. I'm going to do kind of maybe these 4 rooms, maybe, I don't know, maybe these 5 rooms, depending. So we have basically mechanical, electrical room, an office, washroom, and then the storage space, right? So I'll show you how to lay out all those in a second. So I'm going to complete that table, and then we'll keep going. All right, so these are the rooms I'm going to do. We have the office, staff room, mechanical room, storage room, and electrical room. All right, so again, basically the ones that are yellow over here. So we have to figure out the space type. The space types comes from the National Energy Code. You need to grab that from Brightspace. It's going to look something like this. All right, and we need to figure out basically what is our rooms here. So we kind of have to go line by line and figure out what is what. So I'm just looking on the left-hand side here. This is the space type. So, let's go look for maybe an office. So this one's pretty easy. Banking activity area and offices. Underneath this column here, lighting density. Our office would have a lighting power density of 6.5. So we can add that in to our office. Say 6.5. And our space type is an office. Right? Now let's look up the staff washroom. So we're going to scroll down through. Again, you've got, dining areas. So if you have kind of a sitting area for your back office, it's there. You have dressing rooms. That helps. Here we have electrical and mechanical room. So I'll take that one. So that's 4.6. Let's put this in. 4.6. 4.6. And in this column, I'll just put electrical, mechanical room. I'll copy that, paste that here. I'm not too concerned about decimals and all that. It's just a table to record to make sure that you have all that information, so it's all there. So let's look at storage room and staff room. I'm guessing that the storage room is going to be very close to a mechanical room. You don't need a ton of light in there, but let's just see what's there. Basically what you're seeing is the lesser amount of lighting is going to be required for these rooms that don't need as much lighting. So here we have the lobby. So in your vestibule, you may want to put that number in. Here's another office. So we have a specific office less than 25 meters squared. You might need 8. So if we compare that number to what we have, we may want to bump that up. So that's 6.5. Maybe let's try 8. So that's going to give a lot more brighter conditions. So 6.5 to 8. Again, a little bit more lighting might be nice to have. But again, it really gives a range, 6.6 to 8. So seating area, 2.5. So that's on the really low end. Again, parking garage doesn't need a lot of light, 1.5. Living quarters, those sorts of things, again, quite low. Not seeing a washroom just yet. The dressing fitting room would be close. Again, 5.4. Around 5 would be probably a good number to have. I don't see the washrooms there. So I'm going to say like retail facility dressing fitting room. I'm going to call that close to what a washroom would be. Again, I might have skipped over it. It's been a while since I've gone through this. So I'm going to use 5.4 dressing fitting room. And a storage room, again, it's going to be on the low end. I'm going to call this basically electrical, mechanical room. You don't need a ton of light in there. I'm going to do that 4.6, right? Okay, so the next step we got to do here is we just have to go in and measure these distances. It's best to get a length and a width, right? So an X and Y. So let's go in and start grabbing some of these. So I'm going to start with the 004 office. So I'm going to measure distance. All right, so I'm going to write that down. So it's 106.91. I'm going to round it up to about 107. And I'm going to do Y is equal to. So make sure your auto snaps on. We're just going to measure that out. So that's 160. All right, so 160. All right, so that's our office space. Now I'll take you through this next piece, and I'll just show you how to do one room. Maybe I'll do another one just to show you afterwards. But let's just take this, and we'll go through the assignment instructions and keep going with this one. Okay, so once we have the area, we're going to go back to the assignment instructions. And we're going to go into this website. So it's commercial lighting products. It's hyperlinked. If you click on it, it will open. The website is this one, which it's going to open. All right. So it gives you a bunch of different lights to choose from. The ones that we want to look at are these, recessed and surface. Right. There are a bunch of different lights you can choose from. Again, you can work with your instructor to figure out which ones would work best. But for the most part, these are the ones we want to use. They are the ones that fit in T-bar ceilings. Okay. So a couple things that you want to be looking at. Depending on your ceiling plan, all right, so if you have an open ceiling, you may want to choose one of the hanging pendant lights. If you've got a T-bar ceiling, these are more applicable. Here you have rectangular and square. So you can, if you want, put in a 2x2, so a 2 foot by 2 foot lamp, which would look something more like this. All right. The more common that are put in are rectangular. All right. They look more like this. So they're kind of a 2 by 4 foot lamp. So that looks like that. This would be an example of a 2 by 2, and this would be a 2 by 4. All right? Lots to choose from. It doesn't really matter overall what you choose. All I would say is that there's a couple of things with lighting. The amount of lumens right here means that the higher the number, the less lights you need to install. And I would say that a normal number is around 5,000. A very low amount of lumens would be 1,000, which generally we don't want to put in because you just have to install more of them. For any kind of lights, it doesn't really matter what you put in. I'm going to choose this one. Just because it has a couple of good options here. All right, so there's 56 versions of this. All right, so it's quite a few. So again, it doesn't matter which one you choose. It's just an option to choose. So what you want to do from this point is you can say choose application area. So this is meant for education, hospitality, and office. And again, you don't really have too much choice here. They're all the same. So let's skip to the next one. So the lumens, again, by increasing the amount, it just means that it's going to be a much brighter light that you're going to choose from. So I kind of set the minimum at 5,000. You can also scroll through the wattage. So if you wanted to, you could have a lesser wattage lamp. I'm not going to choose that one right now. If you're really doing like LEED or something certified, that might be something you'd be interested in. So here, let's just look at the lighting overall, and I'll just talk about this one. So this one's 7,400 lumens. So this is a quite bright lamp with a 4,000K lighting quality. So that's basically the color of the light. The higher the number just means the more bright the light is. The lower the number means more the warmer light that it is. This one here actually does fit a lot of what I would want. This one here is a 2x4, 7,400 high efficacy, 3,500K. So it's more of a warmer lamp. I'm not sure the difference between really these two, other than we have the lumens. Could be a slightly higher efficiency. Why don't we try this? When you get to this point, what you can do is you're going to want to go to this calculator, and I'll show you how this works. If you go open new tab, what's neat about this is it creates a calculator that you can use with this specific lamp. So that lamp that we just have will upload right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that lamp to basically figure out how many of these can we fit in the space that we have. So there's a bunch of boxes here that you can kind of click on. First one is basically sizing the room. So we're going to put in the length and the width and the height, all that good stuff. The next is the illuminance, the luminaires, and the power density. Hopefully you can start to understand, like, the power density is where we can put in the numbers that we need to use, and then it can calculate out basically how many lamps that we need. Other things we might want to do is I'm going to change the units here. We're going to click on watts per meter square for the power density. Everything else we're going to leave in feet. The other thing we're going to choose is in the calculator. So let's start filling in the numbers. So if we go into our office space, so we have 107 inches by 160 inches with an 8 power density. So let's put in 8. Okay, and you can see here that the lights amounts change with the amount of luminaires. Here we can change the length and the width and the height. So I just have to convert mine over. So we have 107. So 107 divided by 12 is 8.9. So about, doesn't have to be, 9 feet is good. And then the Y here is 160. $13.3. So that's our shape here. Now, a couple things. The height here basically means the height of the lamp. So if you have a T-bar ceiling, you're likely going to be closer to 9 feet ceiling height. Could be 10 feet, 10 feet, if you want it. If you have a open ceiling, usually what you would have is you'd have 16 feet as a height, but then you could do suspension of, say, like 3 feet. Okay, so it's actually hanging down below. And maybe we'll do that height, and then we'll call this 7 feet is where it's going to hang down. The work plane height is basically the height where you need the light to be specified. So basically desk height. So usually 30 inches is typically the standard. So 2.5 feet would be the norm. In a retail space, that's quite normal. In a spot like a garage where you're working on the ground, that might be 0 because you want to see basically light that goes all the way to the ground, but 30 inches is the normal. And that's about it for this. So you can see here, we have our room set up. We basically have one lamp centralized, all right? So it's showing us our one lamp. So what we could do is we could take this specific lamp and draw it into our building. All right, so I'll do that next step. Okay, so I have my ceiling grid on. All right, so I've drawn it out. Now you'll see here I started with the middle T-bar, and I kind of offset them like so. So if we go back and we look at, what this is basically saying is that it basically wants one lamp directly in the middle, and that should work, right? So let's try it. Actually, let me just check one thing. Just saw this. It says 5.3. Let me just make sure nothing changed in my... So that's our maximum. Let's call this... So that's minimum, nearest. So it's saying 2. I was going to say, if we go down to 1, that gives us a 5.3 watts per meter squared output, which is going to be quite dark. If I go to nearest, it's going to give me 2. And I would say that 2 lamps is more along the lines of what I was thinking. Now you can swap out lamps if you want to. A 2x2 lamp might work better here than a 2x4. But let's just say you want to stick with the 2x4. Again, 11 is going to be quite a bit brighter, which is okay. So when I put this in, that's kind of how I envision it, is I have kind of a panel here. I could put 1, 2. Or what I have to do is I have to play with this a little bit. This is something I find a lot of students don't want to do, is they don't want to take the time to, figure out where these lamps go. But you can kind of visualize, like if I have a desk here, a lamp here would be really useful, right? Or even right here. And then I could put another lamp like right here. But because I have a bit of a dark space here, a bit of dark space there, again, it is a bit even. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, the lamp here and the lamp here would actually look pretty good. The other thing you have to check is make sure that ventilation works. And, so you can pull in your mechanical drawing and see where your diffusers are, because lighting takes priority. But I would actually say this lamp and this lamp here would work out the best. So why don't I do that? I'll put those in. So something I've done is I've just taken the lamp from the legend, right? I brought it over. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call it luminaires. All right, I'm going to make the color. I do want something that's going to stand out. Teal or the blue. could do red. I've seen red in the past. So I'm just going to use, maybe I'll use magenta. Magenta kind of stands out a bit. All right, so should have made that. So I'm going to select this lamp. I'm going to put it on to the layer that I just made, luminaires. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lamp and I'm going to put it into this space. Okay, so I put the two luminaires in the space. A couple little things. Just make sure your rooms, this is going to be fun. Room numbers are out of the way. I usually like putting them in the doorways. That way they're not in the way of the luminaires. Okay, so we have our two lamps here. All right. There's a couple other things. So if we just go to the legend here, this is the LED fixture. And then the letter down here corresponds to what the light is. So we need to put that in a schedule for what panel it's on, and then what number where we can find that in the schedule. So we'll just do that now. Okay, so after a bit of figuring around, I got this light in. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a letter in the bottom corner. Again, if your lamps are going to the right, like horizontal, you can follow the legend. Basically, what the letter denotes is where in the schedule the lamp is. So A is our first lamp that I'm going to put in. And so our schedule is going to look like so. So we need to get the manufacturer model of that lamp. So we'll go grab that. So you're going to grab it from here, from wherever you uploaded the light. You'll want to get the spec sheet, right? So if you download the spec sheet, it'll come in like this, right? And then you can type out the lamp that you're going to put in. So it's always good to highlight the items as you go. So we're going to use a 2CAX grid with a 7400 lumens. Let me just make sure that is the one that we ended up using in the calculator. We used 7400, yep, lumens, right? So you can see here, just 7400. Color, again, the higher the color, the more quality you get. I think it was a 4000, 3500K. So it's this one here. And the length is 4 feet. I highlighted too much there. The other way you can do is just circle it, which might be easier in some cases. 3500, 4 feet, views. We're going to use 120. And it's up to you. You guys use dimming, dolly, whatever. We're just going to do a dim. And then these are some of the options you can put in. To be honest, it's up to you guys if you want to go this far and pick out the rest of these. This is the example. So you have 2CAX G38 L-4 DS Unity dim. Now, what did they choose? SW Interact wireless sensor with integral daylight and occupancy sensing, advanced grouping with dwell time. That's probably okay. This just means it's on an occupancy sensor. This is kind of good. Save us some energy. All right, so let's copy this as our text. And we'll bring that in. It's not going to be exactly the same, but we can kind of use that as a gauge. Okay, so that's our lighting there. The other thing we could do is recessed in T-bar. Right, that's another thing we want. And then the description, we just need to know a little bit more about the lighting, and I'll get that in a second. So in the description, you're just kind of saying what the light is about. So here, you know, you can put day bright. You know, you're basically just writing out the what the light delivers. So I'm just going to copy in. This was a previous student example that we could use. So let me just copy that in. Ours is pretty much the same except 3,000 nominal lumens. Ours is a little bit higher. And other than that, it's pretty much the same. So we'll copy that and we'll bring that in. Okay, so we got our description. We got a recess in our T-bar. The next we'll talk about is the lamps and the luminaire quantities. So for this section, we have the LED and then the amount of power that it makes. The amount of power you're going to need to figure out which lamp it is. In the spec sheet, it's down below. All right, so if we have our 7500, which is this one, the amount of power is going to be, say, 70 watts. That's 3500K, yeah. So this one. You can see here, if we chose a 3500, it would produce a lot less power overall, which, you know, something to think about if you were doing, say, a lead drawing or something like that. We'd half the amount of power, right? So that we would have this as 70 watts, and it's 3500K lighting and 80 CRI, right? These numbers just come from the from that PDF. Luminaire quantities, all right, so the luminaire quantities, this is important if you're going to, basically every time we add a lamp that's the same lamp, it's going to go, we're going to increase the amount. So in the end, the luminaire quantity should reflect how many total lamps that you have. So you could, if you wanted to, reuse this lamp multiple times in multiple rooms. Always you're using this, or you can mix it up and use a 2x2 lamp or something like that. Currently, we only have 2 lamps that are of this type, right, type A. So if we make another lamp in one of these other rooms, it would become B in the schedule, and then it would have its own information. But we could, if we wanted to, reuse this lamp, say, in 007, and, you know, and then just add to the quantity of that amount. All right. I hope you guys found this helpful to start this up. I'll continue and just do another room and just show the finished product so you can see how it would all come together. So I just calculated a little bit. So this storage room 007, all right, is the storage room that's right here. I started putting the T-bar and I just paused for a second. Because before I put the T-bar in, I'm going to see which way the ceiling makes sense in terms of how many lamps I need. This was the dimensions I got. So 136 inches, which is 11.3 feet, and then 348 inches, which is about 29 feet. Now, something I realized is I put 4.6 here for my lighting, and I'll see what that gives me, but I think that's going to be a little bit low. I was thinking of a storage room as like a smaller room, one of these. It's quite large, so I'm not sure if I'm going to use 4.6. I might want a little bit larger, but I'll leave it just for now. I'm going to reuse that same lamp that I used in the first section. So I already have that available. So what you can do is once you have that same lamp, again, power density, I'm going to change that to 4.6, right, which is going to drastically reduce that. We're going to change the layout of the room. There's a couple other things I noticed too. I realized that in the instructions, I had some default settings down here, which is workplace is 3 feet. You can use 2.5. Suspension height typically is 0 feet if you have a T-bar ceiling. I realize here it's 12 feet. I use 9 feet. It does make a bit of a difference. So I should use the instructions here. So I'm going to picture that I have a height of 12, suspension of 0. All right, so it's going to be a lot higher up. And it won't change too much, like that one lamp, unless I, obviously, because it's a smaller room. So this is still that small little office. Now I'm going to update my dimensions here. So I've got 11.3 and 29. So 11.3, 29. All right, so it's kind of a long room. Now, a couple things I just want to point out. I'm going to change that. I'm just going to change that to 29. And a couple things I want to point out. If your room has a weird shape, like this one, all right? So I have a room. Really, it's an L-shaped room. Just use the box. That calculator can't add in this section, can't subtract it. So just use the maximal area. All right, and do it that way. You'll find that it will add a couple lamps. It might add 1, maybe 2 lamps, and I'll show you how to take care of that. But for now, I would say, add that in. Okay, so let's just go through 29 by 11, 12, workplace size 2.5. We still have that same lamp. I'm thinking probably it's going to be, so right now it's 3.8. What I want to do is I want to set that as a minimum. Play with this enough to know what I want to do is see if it would make sense to do the lamps the other way. So I'll just take a quick check to see if it makes more sense to do it that way. So this is kind of the spacing that I want. So really 3 lamps is what it came out to be. 5.9, which is around 6, which I think is a little bit better than just 2 lamps in there. So 3 lamps is what it's specifying, right, for the quantity. So I'm going to try to draw those in now. So I've copy and pasted my 3 lamps, and now I just need to know how to space them out. So the way I like to do it is I like to kind of count out ceiling tiles and then space them out accordingly. So we do have a space in here, all right? So I'm going to count the big tiles. So I'm going to leave this one alone. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So 6, 3 lamps between. So if I go, say, 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, that'll give me 2 spaces between, right? And I basically, if I put them in the center, I have 1, 2, 3 tiles. I have 1, 2 tiles. So whether it goes here or here doesn't really matter. Again, I'm almost at a full ceiling tile here and a full ceiling tile here. So we could do that. So why don't I try that? So I'm going to select these. What you're looking for is make sure that your lighting is even. All right, so I know I need one up here outside this space, and you're just going to snap that to your ceiling grid. And we're going to take the next one. And we're going to put it here. And then the next one we'll put somewhere in the middle. So this is 1 tile apart, 2 tiles apart. It looked like that one didn't snap in the right place that I wanted it. So you could do something like that. That'd be 1 over 1 over. I'm going to put it here. All right, it looks like this one missed for some reason. There we go. So that's pretty well evenly laid out. This one, again, it could come a little bit further down. We could shift the tiles over slightly, but when you walk into a room, you get a light. Again, this is all lit area. Really, I was surprised it only gave us 3 lamps. We could probably, if we lower the lumens a little bit, get 4 lamps in here. To me, I would almost say, you know, you have one. Well, maybe that's it. Yeah, it's just because there's a 2 tile spacing. Anyways, I think that's okay. Again, you could put it here if you really wanted to. Yeah, I think that's a 3 is definitely a minimum. I would almost bank on 4 as a higher number to get in there, but it is a long, narrow room, so it's not too bad. So anyways, once you've kind of analyzed that a bit, maybe get your instructor review what you want in terms of lamps in there. We added 3 more of these exact same ones. So what we can do is we can come up here and update our quantities now to 5. Right? So that's the total amount of lamps that are in here. Now there's one last thing that you need to put in here, and that has to do with the panel schedule. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So this is a previous student drawing that we had that was done a few years ago. And I'll just kind of show how this one comes out to be. So in your drawing space, once you kind of have all your lamps labeled, you're going to put underneath, basically you're going to put in the letter B, which means the B panel, dash a number, right? That number corresponds to where that lamp is going to be on the panel. So the panel, you guys already have a schedule created, will look something like this, right? So 14, right? Here it has light room 126, and then this is the 14th breaker, and they're all 15 amp 1 pole. So in that drawing, you're going to add in where it is and what room it is. Usually you only want a minimum of, say, in your building, really, you can put each room on its own breaker. All right, so each lighting system you can put on its own breaker, which really helps in terms of turning the lights off and closing off the electricity for that room. If you're challenged for space, you can double up or even triple up in some of these, but for most part, you can just have one light on one fuse. So I'll show what that looks like on your own building. So I've just added those numbers here. So I'm just going to call room 4 here. I'm going to put that on B-1. All right, so that's on the breaker B-1. Now in this drawing set, I don't have it yet from Dominique, the panel schedule yet. But when I get it, I'll update it for you guys. This just means, again, on panel B, this would be number 1, and I would label room 004 in there. This one I put on B-2. All right, so this room is 007. And I've make sure that you're consistent, make sure you're pasted these underneath each room. All right, and then that's the labeling that goes on for that. Now we're not completely done. There's still one last thing done, which is a light switch. Right, so you can copy this in from the legend. Right, so it's this money sign. So what the money sign basically means is this is the light switch for the room. And I'll show you simply how this goes. So we can just copy and paste that over. In a building, when you enter the room, the light switch should always be on the Sorry, I had to go check this. The light was always on the latch side of the door. All right, so this is the hinge side where the door closes. It's always on the latch side. And you can just put the light switch here. All right. Now, there's a couple ways to draw this. If the light switch is in the room and there's no other lights here that need to be controlled by this light, again, you can talk to your instructor, but you can have just the light switch here and it will control only this one. All right. If you have a room where you might have multiple light switches, like here, right? I'll show you how to do. You can put a light switch. So again, when you've got a double door, there's a couple options. You could put it on the wall here and over here. I'm going to put it over here. So basically when you come in this space, there's a light switch here. And again, you might want another one here. So say in the morning when people are coming into this building, they may enter from the front, but they may enter from the rear. And so if they come in here and there's no lights on, they may want a second light switch here. So again, you might want to put one here, right? Now again, these light switches, they're the only ones in here that are controlling this space, but you may get into a room like this one, a giant room, where you might need to have multiple light switches controlling. And I'll kind of show that on a previous student drawing that we had. What that might look like. So here's a room. All right. So this is 119. These lamps here. All right. The B-8s. B-8, B-8, B-8. All these lamps in this room. The little letter here that comes after the number, this little Q here. This Q basically means that they're all being controlled by this light switch, right? So this is a washroom. I'll see if he has one where, so this is an example of this light switch 2Z, basically means that here we have Z, 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 but here he's got another light switch over here. Basically that this is saying that we have a light switch. There's two of them. So there's 1, 2, and they're all controlling the Z lights, right? I think that's about as complicated as I need to make this. So basically there's, in the scheme of the lighting, I'll update it on the drawing. If your lamp is going to be your lamp designation, all right, so we have panel, breaker, and then light switch arrangement to the light switch, all right? So we'll put that in on the drawing. I'll show you what that means. Okay, been bobbing around adding these. So let's look at the two-way lamps first. So we're coming in through 007. So there's a couple things I want to note for light switches. All right, light switches, all right, has the money sign. Now the money sign, when you make a money sign in your text, all right, if you're just going to create it, it's going to put 2 lines in. Now 2 lines is not the end of the world, except that, well, this one only made 1. Ha, that's funny. Actually, you only want 1, and then you can add to it if you need to. So I don't know why this one made 2. So doesn't matter. If you have a money sign, all right, anytime you add another light switch to it, so I've added another light switch, I add another line to it. So here I have a light switch. I have 2. It usually means I need 2. I'm going to have 2 switching stations. Even though I have a number in front, like a 2A, I'm still going to have 2 lines. So if I had 3 light switches, I'd have 3 lines and so forth. So the number 2 here means there's two lamps, 2 light switches that control the lamps in the room. And the A means that it's controlling all the A lamps. So you need to make sure that there's an underscore, which is really the only non-capitalized letter you have on your drawing, here. And it's okay that all the lamps in the room are controlled by one set of lamps. In an office, you just need a single, sorry, not an office, just in a room where you just have one single light switch, you're going to have a single money sign, and then the number after it, which in this case can just be a single letter. In this case, I have B-1B. So I'm going to edit that to a B. You can use subscripts if you want, or you can just type it all out and make it look pretty, right? So in the text, there's an option to do subscripts and superscripts. I'm just going to get rid of this. All right, so again, it's the latch side of the door. Put it in. So B's, control my B's. I have those 2 lamps. That should be, like I said, that should be the process for doing all the lighting and all the things you need, other than the panel schedule, which I'll hopefully update once I get it from Dominique.